Hello, everybody. We are back. This is the NBA Tournament Strategy Show. I'm Bob226, aka Josiah. And yeah, we have a massive slate today. But granted, definitely not as big as the slate we had on Monday, where literally every NBA team was playing on the same day. So we can handle this. This won't be too much. There's a little bit of injury news that we'll get into throughout this slate that will keep things interesting and fresh as well. Um, as a reminder, this is just a quick walkthrough of today's slate. We'll try to pinpoint some plays, maybe talk through some strategy as we kind of see them as they stand out. On the pre-lock show later today at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, that is when we will really dig into who we will increase and boost our exposure to. We'll see what the domination station's doing and just kind of see where we want to land today on this slate. To be a part of that show, you have to be a VIP member. To become a VIP member, you have to join DFS Army. You can do that by clicking the link in the description. Feel free to use the promo code BOB for a 10% discount. Now that we have all of that out of the way, let's dig into these games. All right, let's start off with the Portland Trailblazers against the Charlotte Hornets. This is a interesting game, mostly because Damian Lillard, we saw him return last time out. He's probable today, more than likely will play. And he played for 35 minutes. That is something that you don't see a lot in basketball. It's very uncommon for someone to be out, miss a few games for an injury, then come back and play a full complement of minutes. We thought he was going to play like roughly 25 to 30 minutes. Thankfully, he didn't break the slate, mostly because he was pretty much awful out there. So he didn't really score a lot. He didn't get a lot of peripheral points. So that helped us a lot. But it is good to see that we now know that when we play Damian Lillard, you are going to still get and see those minutes, which is nice. On this slate, though, Damian Lillard's a little bit less exciting for me. I need to see that he's returned to form, at least somewhat, before I want to get that exposure. Anthony Simons is back as well. This team, when they're healthy, no one really stands out a ton. Similar story with the Hornets, Charlotte Hornets, but Terry Rozier, we know he has ceiling upside. When LaMelo Ball and Gordon Hayward are out, he still has a 26.4% usage rate, with scoring about 1.05 fantasy points per minute. That's something that I want exposure to at a 7,800 price tag, and I think he has nice upside here. So I like getting exposure to Terry. Dennis Smith is less interesting with Terry's return. Kelly Oubre is very shot dependent, so very much so GPP play. PJ Washington is so volatile. If you've been on the PJ Washington train, you know what that roller coaster feels like. So a lot of these guys are more GPP flyers outside of Terry Rozier for me. Next up, we have the Denver Nuggets against the Indiana Pacers. This is a game where, again, everyone's pretty healthy. And for me, I've talked about it a good bit on the pre-lock show. I am less interested in this Nuggets team when they're all healthy. I think Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray are fine, but Nikola Jokic, it's hard for me to pay up for him when Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray are both healthy. Looks like we have a question from DD. When you search for value players, what's the stat you focus on? The good thing about value plays is that the domination station finds them for you, for the most part. And you can do that by sorting points per dollar. And you can see guys like Miles Turner is really popping on a slate like this as a solid value play. Jalen Smith is also popping as well. And you can do that for the entire slate. You can even see like guys like Andrew Nimbrin are guys that you can consider for value. And so that's a really quick way of doing it. Also, close to lock, you can refresh projections, and the domination station will really boost a lot of the good value into your lines. Now, the real question comes into, do we think that value is good value or not? And that's what we kind of get into on the pre-lock shows. Like, hey, do we trust this chalk value on this slate? Are we going to lower our exposure down to it? And that's really the conversations that I'm trying to get going on the pre-lock show. So back to this game, Miles Turner is, like I said, he's really popping. Everyone and their mom is going to be on Miles Turner today. He's really started to get hot. We've seen these massive slate-breaking performances starting to happen a bit more consistently. I don't remember what show I said it on, but I said it earlier this year. Miles Turner and we have some trust issues. I've seen the situation play out time and time again. Miles Turner, the hype train really starts. Then one day he becomes the chalk of the slate, and then he burns everyone. I'm really hoping Miles Turner is a changed man. I remember I saw an interview where he said that this is going to be the year where he thinks that this is going to be his breakout season. So hopefully we can trust Miles Turner chalk. But I always like to give the warning that this is risk that we've been burned by before. So that risk is definitely there. Tyrese Halliburton has been hot as well. He's been on fire. It's been great seeing him crushing. And I think we can definitely consider him as well. I think there's nice upside from his standpoint and perspective as well. The extracurricular pieces here, I'm a little bit less excited about, but guys like Mathurin, Healed, we've seen stealing performances from them. So definitely a game that we can look to attack. This next game, we have the Celtics against the Pistons. This game is one that is more interesting to me than I thought it would be. Cade Cunningham, his price is not going up for whatever reason. It's weird. It's like I understand he had a slow start to the season, but he's had multiple great performances where it's not really a surprise anymore, and he's still below 8,000. So Cade Cunningham is definitely in play. The matchup isn't great. Definitely if Smart ends up covering Cade Cunningham, but more so just in general, the Celtics are a decent defensive team. So I don't love that for Cade Cunningham, but at this price tag, he's definitely still in play for me. Jason Tatum, this is a soft matchup for him. Let's see, what's the spread here? The spread does scare me a little bit when it comes to Jason Tatum, but I don't try to predict blowouts. I like this spot for Jason Tatum for ceiling performances. You can also consider Jaylen Brown here too. The biggest concern with Jaylen Brown is that he is very shot dependent. For him to have a ceiling performance, his shot has to fall. He's not going to get there through rebounds or assists like other guys might be able to if their shot isn't falling. So that's kind of like my biggest concern with him. Moving on to the Rockets and Raptors. The one thing I didn't talk about is there is a game, the Mavericks and Magic game, that moved to being before lock, before the slate is going to start on DraftKings. On FanDuel, that Mavericks and Magic game will still start. Will start before lock time, so their entire lock moved up. So if you guys play on FanDuel, dig into the details there. I don't know the details, as you guys can probably tell, but definitely dig into the details if you play on FanDuel. Now for this Raptors game, it's another interesting one. We should be without Pascal Siakam once again. And I've told you guys, and we've seen it slate after slate, these starters is pretty much always a new one. These starters on the Raptors are in play when Pascal Siakam is out. Fred VanVleet is okay. Thank you, OG. Lock on FanDuel is going to be at 5:30. Fred VanVleet has a 26.5% usage rate with Pascal Siakam off the court this season. Nice increase for him. The price tag being at 8,100 is still a little low for him. I love the ceiling, and I love this matchup against the Rockets. This feels like a get right spot for FVV, and so I definitely want to attack and be over the field on him. Love Scotty Barnes here. OG Anunoby's also in play for me. We've seen Kevin Porter and Jalen Green have their ceiling spots at this point. I'm not super excited about this spot for them. So I don't think I'll be over the field on them by a ton. Gary Trent Jr. is another guy I like a lot. He has a 23.4% usage rate. So really all of the Raptors, like I'm just going to be all over them. It really just helps makes the slate smaller for me on a slate like this. We have seen Christian Koloko start, and so he's a value option you can consider. He's less interesting to me. He's one of those few guys who somehow fails on a Nick Nurse led team, being moved into the starting position. Like we've seen Precious Achiuwa do it, crush from a DFS standpoint. We've seen Chris Boucher do it and crush from a DFS standpoint, but Christian Koloko, God forbid he crushed from a DFS standpoint. So yeah, Christian Koloko, he crushed and surpassed value one time out of the 4 to 5 times he started so far. And for him to do that, he had to get 6 blocks. That's something that doesn't happen very consistently for him. So he's someone who's in play, but he's more of a fringe play for me. Not someone that I'm excited to get exposure to. So yeah, that's pretty much this game. Moving on to the Utah Jazz against the Atlanta Hawks. This game is interesting mostly because we have a Trae Young questionable tag. It's interesting because on Monday's slate, Trae Young, we saw post lock that Trae Young was out and DeJounte Murray crushed. And I think everyone knew right away that he was going to be an automatic lock if Trae Young is out. I feel the same way about DeJounte Murray on this slate. If Trae Young ends up being out, boom, it's going to be an easy DeJounte Murray night. So fingers crossed that Trae Young actually ends up not playing. If he ends up playing, it's a similar situation that we've had pretty much throughout the season so far. If you want to play Trae Young for the ceiling and the upside, you can. Same thing for DeJounte Murray, and similar story for John Collins. But none of them stand out really when they're all healthy. On the other side of it, we have Lauri Markkanen. He has really just been dominant this season. He has had a 24.2% usage rate so far this season, right along with Jordan Clarkson, who's also been dominant this season. Those are really the main 2 guys I would consider on this team. Mike Conley is someone that everyone always likes to just write off, and I fall victim to that at times too. But he has random ceiling games, and he had a decent game on Monday as well. So I'm trying to just cognitively just remind myself that I shouldn't just X out Mike Conley as often as I do. Outside of that, we can look to Colin Sexton. He's still priced pretty low. He's continuing to see the 30 30 minutes on the court, which is what we want to see for him. And as long as he keeps saying that, he will remain in play for me as well. So definitely an interesting spot for sure. Next up, we have the Knicks against the Nets. I know this one might get me yelled at and will more than likely get me some not so nice DMs. But Isaiah Hartenstein is in play once again. Mitchell Robinson should be out of this game, and we can play bigs against the Nets. Julius Randle is also in play because he's a big and he's also a stud, and you can also play studs against the Nets because the Nets are just a really bad team defensively right now. And so I'm more than happy to go back there. Everyone's feelings got hurt when Isaiah hurt their feelings, but you know what? I'm fine going back to the whale. No concerns with them. Kevin Durant also in play. You know, Kevin Durant has just slowly but surely started to show that ceiling again. The $11,000 price tag is kind of concerning, but the spread being close brings me a little bit more peace of mind. So that's a nice change of pace. Outside of that, I'm not super interested in the scorers like Jalen Brunson or RJ Barrett, but I'll probably leave them in my pool because this is definitely a ceiling spot for them as well. So some interest there. No interest in Ben Simmons. I don't think I need to talk about that, but maybe we'll say that for another day. This Pelicans against the Bulls game is one that I don't have a ton of interest in, mostly because all these guys are healthy. I think my rule of thumb at this point, we'll see what I end up doing on the pre-lock show, is that I'm fine having one-offs. Like I'm fine having DeMar DeRozan, Vucevic, Levine, but I don't want them to be in the same lineup. I'm fine getting exposure to Zion, Ingram, McCollum, but I don't want them to be in the same lineup. So ultimately for me, when everyone's healthy on this team, I'm just less interested in general, but I'm fine having a few one-off pieces. Okay. All right, this next game is another interesting one. Jrue Holiday should miss this game. When Jrue Holiday, Chris Middleton, and Connaughton are off the court this season, our guy, Giannis Antetokounmpo, sees a 37.2% usage rate. Freaking gigantic. He's $12,400. Definitely a tough asking price, but one that I'm definitely willing to pay when all of the other guys on this team are out. Bobby Portis, Grayson Allen, they also see a nice increase as well. They just will simply need the bodies on the court at this point. The guys who should start and see more time in a situation like this are guys like Javion Carter and George Hill. I think both of them will see slightly more time. I'm hoping we get better value on a slate like this. I would love to not have to play those fringe one-off guys just because we've seen time and time again, those are guys that can see all of the minutes in the world, but their usage and points per minute are so low, it can look like they weren't on the court at all. If that's the best value we get, I'm sure I'll get exposure to it and eat it, but ideally we'll get better value. Alex Sedge is questionable for this game on the Thunder side of things, so definitely keep an eye on him. Of course, if he's out, guys like Jeremiah Robinson Earl is slightly more interesting. We've seen Lou Dort have slightly stronger performances in spots like this. Also, guys like Basley and Jalen Williams become slightly more interesting as well. But we've seen this game play out a few enough times where more often than not, it's totally fine to just fade completely. SGA is another high ceiling guard we have on this slate. I think that's the most important thing at this point, is just that with SGA, even when the matchup isn't great, and as long as the game stays close, spread's okay around 6. He can hit those ceiling performances. So a guy that I definitely am totally fine leaving in my player pool, and we'll probably want to get a little bit of leverage on him, but we'll see about that. But long story short, here is Giannis all day, every day. Not really going to question it too much. This next game, Chris Paul is questionable. Of course, that's gigantic news. If Chris Paul is out, Cameron Payne will start or should start, and will be the value that everyone wants. And Cameron Payne is good chalk. We've seen him in this spot before, and we've seen him crush. So if Chris Paul is out, would love to get all the exposure in the world to Cameron Payne. Of course, like DeAndre Ayton is still slightly too cheap, so I'm sure he'll get plenty of ownership. I believe Rudy Gobert is not on the injury report, so he should be playing today. So the matchup is a little bit tougher with Rudy Gobert in there, but DeAndre Ayton's still at the right price tag that I'm still fine playing him here. Especially if Chris Paul's out, then like Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton and Miles Bridges as well see nice increases for me. On the other side of it, I'm not really interested in the Timberwolves. We could create a similar rule for them, like I'm thinking about doing with the Raptors or with the Pelicans and the Bulls, but ultimately I don't love this matchup enough that I think it's worth it. This is another game, this Grizzlies against the Spurs game, where of course you have Ja, who has ceiling for days, but Giannis is really my guy tonight. I'm not super excited about much here. I think the biggest thing here is that guys like Ja Morant, Kevin Durant, the other studs on this slate, those are your pivots. Like those are if your strategy tonight is going to be like, hey, Giannis is great. This is a great matchup for him, but I still don't think he hits his ceiling. I think any of the other studs do. That's a nice way of taking down a tournament. Like that's a tournament pivot. That's also a small field GPP pivot. Good little ways of making money by doing that. But of course, like I said, Giannis is in a great spot, but Ja's one of those pivots. You can, of course, play like your Keldon Johnsons, your Devin Vassals, your Jakob Poeltls. They're all fine for me, but I think they're appropriately priced, so they don't stand out too much. So I'm not super excited about anything in that game. For the Lakers and Clippers, we thought this was going to be an easy situation last time out, but it ended up getting a little crazy when LeBron James ended up being out. But we believe, we think, we hope everyone will be healthy in this game. So fingers crossed on that side of things. With everyone healthy, I'm not super interested in this Lakers team. Of course, if one of them goes down for whatever reason, then I will be slightly more interested in this team. On the Clippers side of things, Reggie Jackson finally had a decent game, and of course that happened because John Wall was out. John Wall should be back in this game. So, like I've said time and time again, John Wall is a usage monster. He destroys everything he touches on the Clippers side of things. So I'm just less interested in him. I know I'll be asked about Russell Westbrook later. I think you can play him. His price tag is appropriate. I think at this point, if everyone's healthy on this team, like I said originally, I'm not gonna be too high on any of these guys. Still in the pool, but not excited to play any of them. All right, last game on the slate, guys. We have the Cleveland Cavaliers against the Sacramento Kings, who had the surprise. Okay. No surprise. Good. I don't know why. I thought I saw something. Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, Darius Garland has been a cash mine for us for a few slates now. Pretty much whenever he's played, you play him. He's been performing well at his price. He's been a great value. His price tag is starting to increase ever so slowly. So I'm totally fine still playing Darius Garland tonight, though. In this matchup, the price tag's still low. More than happy to get Darius Garland exposure on a slate like this. Donovan Mitchell has been fine, but like I've been saying for a while now, when everyone's healthy on this team, I'm less excited to play him. But the upside is there. The upside is definitely there for Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley. Those are, to me, like the two serious high upside ceiling spots on this team. On the other side of it, I think Domantas Sabonis, I love the price tag on him. The hard part for me now is matchup. I don't like playing bigs against the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're a great defensive team. Not a spot I want to target. So we'll see ultimately where we land, guys, on the pre-lock show later today. But that was this slate in a nutshell. Make sure you guys have all of your questions and concerns ready, and you're ready to bring them to me on the pre-lock show. Outside of that, thank you all for watching. I really do appreciate you guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss when we have our new news and information that comes out for NBA and NFL. Look forward to seeing you guys later today for the pre-lock show at 5:30 p.m. Peace.